Sergei Bubka, attempting to break his own world record of 19 feet, 8 1/4 inches.
Network Television proudly presents the 1986 Goodwill Games from Moscow and from Madrid. Brought to you.
Welcome back to Moscow for prime time coverage of the Goodwill Games. It's day 4 of our coverage, and already world records have fallen in swimming, heptathlon, and the pole vault. First of all, it was Soviet swimmer Vladimir Salnikov. He broke his own mark in the 800-meter freestyle with a new world record of 7:50.65, and what a performance it was. Then the indefatigable Jackie Joyner of the U.S., not only setting a new world record in the heptathlon, but achieving a lifelong goal of surpassing the elusive 7,000-point barrier. And earlier today, the story of another athlete already in a class by himself, Soviet pole vaulter Sergei Bubka, bettered his own world mark to 19 8 3/4, clearly distinguishing himself as the reigning monarch in his sport. Well, Marianne Laughlin, I think already these broken records prove that the Goodwill Games are indeed for real.
The games are really picking up the pace, Bob. Not only have we seen those world records you alluded to, but also today, in the first day of cycling competition, there were 4 world records set, though it is appropriate to bear in mind that world records in cycling fall pretty regularly. Tonight, we'll be looking into that cycling story from the Olympic Velodrome, one of the fastest tracks in the world. We'll also be seeing the continuation of the women's volleyball tournament as the U.S. plays Japan in a must-win game. The U.S. women were surprised by North Korea yesterday, and now their hopes are threatened. There is the possibility of an unexpectedly good showing by American women in Modern Pen. We'll update you on that story. And also, men's basketball from Spain. A lot to talk about tonight.
And on a day when world records are falling, we look forward tomorrow to the performance of Carl Lewis in the 100 meters. Edwin Moses going for his 111th consecutive victory in the 400-meter hurdles, and perhaps the classiest high jump field ever assembled at one pit. Also tomorrow, we'll have Sergei Bubka in our studios. We'll be talking with him about the new world record, of course, and the question, can he get to 20 feet? Looked like he might have even today. Also, boxing starts Friday, and at that time, the controversy over the Defense Department decision will be felt to full measure, and we'll see if the hastily assembled American team can meet the challenge. But of course, along with the big story of the day at the track, there was lingering confusion about the assignment and arrangement of heats. Craig Masbach will interview Steve Scott, an American runner whose performance in the 1,500 meters may have been hurt by the confusion. We'll have that when we return with coverage of the Goodwill Games. Well, we have some exciting volleyball action coming your way. The United States, as you may have heard earlier, lost to North Korea in their opening volleyball game in women's volleyball. The U.S., Japan, and the USSR were said to be the top teams in that field, but the U.S. was upset early. They are playing Japan, another powerful contender, and it is really a win-or-else situation in terms of a medal for the United States team. So let's check in on that game and just see how they do. Let's go now to the venue.
Lennon Central Stadium, smaller arena, the site of the women's volleyball competition here at the Goodwill Games. Our match today features Japan against the United States. And Ann Myers, since the United States lost in their first round, they're 0-1. They really have to beat the Japanese to stay alive in the competition.
They lost last night to North Korea in 4 games, which was the longest match of the evening. Japan beating Czechoslovakia in 3 games, and as you said, Japan is 1-0 in their pool. The United States 0-1. United States really has to win tonight, even though it's conceivable if they do lose, there'll be a 3-way tie with 1-1 with Czechoslovakia and North Korea, as Czechoslovakia beat North Korea earlier.
All right, so our standings once again show North Korea and Czechoslovakia at 1-1, the United States at 0-1 in the bottom, and Japan undefeated so far in Goodwill competition. But let's get back to the match at hand. Japan against the USA. How do these two teams compare?
They've played each other quite a few times, 8 times in the last year, and the United States has won 3 of those matches, so they know each other pretty well, and I think the United States has a good chance of winning tonight because the last few times they have been the victors, and I think they're a little bit more powerful up front at the net.
All right, we'll have to wait and see if the United States can get into the win column with a victory over Japan.
The head coach of the women's USA national volleyball team is Terry Leskevich. He inherited the program right after the 1984 Olympics. Unfortunately, all of the Olympians left with the coach. Ann Myers caught up with Terry Leskevich before the match.
Terry, first off, what about your thoughts about Japan tonight?
Well, Japan is a great team, and we've fared well against them. We like playing against the Oriental style, and unfortunately we didn't play well last night against Oriental style, but we're ready to play tonight, and it's a big match for us. We know that in order to win first place in the pool, we've got to win this match tonight.
You basically have a new team coming here to the Goodwill Games.
Well, it always seems we have a new team every time we play. We made some changes. Paula Weishoff joined us 2.5 weeks ago, so she's an outside hitter, and Carolyn Kirby, who was our 5-1 setter, is now an outside hitter. So those 2 people are in 2 new positions. Paula's never played outside. And we have a new setter, Michelle Boyette. We're trying at setter to see how well she does. So virtually we're 50% a new team on the floor. And it's caused some problems, but this is the time that we need to experiment for the World Championships come September.
We'll be right back right after this word.
The United States is wearing the navy blue or dark uniforms. Japan is in the white. And the Japanese national team will serve first.
I think one of the things the Americans are going to try and concentrate on in this match, Leandra, is their service errors. They had an awful lot last night. Actually, they had 16 for 4 games, and that is way too many. And so I think that that's one thing that Coach Terry Leskevich is going to try and pound into his players' heads. Don't get service errors.
Now, Japan is 1-0 in the pool standings. As we said, they defeated Czechoslovakia, a much larger team. But something that I think you're going to notice about Japan is their quickness. As we take a look at Marsha Bond at the USA, this is Japan's number 9, Sachiko Otani.
They're a very experienced ball club. They've been together for an awful long time.
And that's a very quick step, but the USA was ready. You'll notice with Japan, nothing ever hits the ground. And that was a block of a ball, so the United States will get the service and try to get on the scoreboard. 0, serving 0. Michelle Boyette, the setter, providing the honors. Marsha Bond with a well-timed block.
Bad pass there by the Japanese, which you will not see too often.
1, serving 0.
Good block by the Americans.
That's what they need to do. They have to stay up there and slam the door on the offense, something that they could not do in their loss to North Korea.
Well, the Americans feel that that is one of their strengths in their offense and defense, or their defense is their blocking. If they can get that going, then the rest of their game comes.
Side out for Japan. It went off the block of the USA. Matsuzana providing a good hit for the Japanese offense. Oh, an ace.
Miscommunication right there by Carolyn Kirby, who used to be a setter. She's now playing the back row. And Paula Weishoff, who is new to the ball club, just came in a couple weeks ago. They have to talk a little bit more.
If the name Weishoff sounds familiar, that was a net serve, which is why it's a side out. Weishoff was an Olympian in 1984.
The only player.
And left the team and came back.
She played over in Italy for a couple years. Good up by the Americans.
The block caught him on the way down, so Japan gets the side out.
It was a nice dink by Umetsu, and the reason why is because their setter, Nakata, Kumi Nakata, has really been able to set the ball wherever she wants to off the passes.
Bond with the dink. Nice block by the USA, but Japan, they never say die.
That's what they're known for.
Kemner goes cross court.
Matsuzawa really could not do much with that block or try and dig that ball up. She got her hands caught up too high instead of down below her waist. Kumi Nakata with another good set. Number 10.
Norihiro with another good hit. Of course, when they're set that pretty, it's a little easier to do your job. 1-2, Japan against the United States.
Nice dig. Overset. Carolyn Kirby, who was an All-American at Kentucky, was a great hitter there, and she was switched on the national team. She was an alternate on the '84 Olympic team, switched to a setter, and now she's back as a hitter.
Otani. We go all the way behind to Kemner, who can't get it from the backcourt line, so it'll be a side out for Japan.
You'll see the Americans do that quite a bit. Karen Kemner is playing the back row, and the Americans will set behind that 10-foot line and have their hitters try and spike the ball from there.
That roundhouse service provided some trouble for the USA. They had to generate all of their offense from about 25 feet back. That's not where you want to do it.
No, you like to be a little bit closer to the net. It helps. Nobody back defensively for the Japanese. Melissa McClendon using the block well and keeping the ball deep in the back court. Good serve.
Into the block. But it went out of bounds, so it'll be side out for Japan, and our score is tied at 2-2.
Here's Naomi Masuko going to the back for that back set, and they were able to run their offense and run some options off it because of the passing.
And that one found the ground. United States side out.
The Americans really lucked out with that. Melissa McClendon, the middle blocker, and Michelle Boyette, the setter for the Americans. She's been with the team only for about a month, and they're trying to get used to her setting.
Boyette with the up. That's Kirby setting. Back to Weisoff. Otani jump set to mix it up, and the United States was caught off guard. Masuko was well-timed on that one.
Well, it was a nice move by the Japanese. They had a chance to hit it over on the second hit, and they took advantage of that third hit, and the Americans weren't ready for it. They couldn't get a block up. Nice pass.
And it goes off the block and out of bounds, so the United States will get the side out.
Well, Paula Weisoff was really able to use the block well. The Japanese could only get one blocker up because they were faked out.
Nice stuff block.
Free ball.
Short set. U.S. is ready.
Nice up by Kemner.
Weisoff coming from outside and in.
They're ready for that dink.
Kemner. Point USA.
Kemner, probably the most powerful hitter on the team, just really knocked it right through that block and right underneath him.
Michelle Boyette, 3-2.
Off the one block.
United States is in trouble. And they're going to call reaching over the net, touching the net on the USA side out.
Marcia Bond, a good athlete, really couldn't get out of the net too well. There you see her stepping over and touching the net.
Says something about her athletic ability that she's up there so long and able to do so much while she's up there.
Nice hit by Weisoff, but the Japanese are a great defensive player. They dig everything.
Everything.
Look at that. Great dig.
And the crowd appreciates this rally as one of the Japanese players flies over the line, which is not allowed to be side out USA.
And those were some tough spikes by the Americans. The Japanese trying to use the block, and the Americans got their hands out of the way quickly, and the ball goes back over to the United States.
All right, here we're seeing Paula Weisoff execute a conventional serve. She decided to conserve some of her energy. She was doing the run and jump spike serve, and
well, that jump serve, as you said, Leandra, it really takes a lot of energy out of you, especially when you go a lot of side outs. And it really fatigues you and not only takes a lot out of you physically, but also mentally.
This is Midori Matsuzana. She will serve for Japan. Our score is 2-3. Japan 1-0 so far in volleyball competition. The United States 0-1. Surprisingly losing to North Korea. Game is tied.
Norihiro, probably the tallest player on the Japanese ball club, and she really takes advantage of her height. You would not think that the Japanese are not tall, but they make up for it because of their defensive play. They are so quick in the backcourt.
Matsuzamu with a good serve. Ooh, Marcia Bond with a better spike.
Nice one set. Enable that was a great pass by Paula Weisoff right to Michelle Boyette. She did not have to move. A little jump set right there to Marcia Bond, and boom, down for the kill.
I think you've brought up a good point there, Ann, in saying that it was a nice pass to Michelle Boyette. I don't want it to sound like we've been hard on Michelle Boyette. The passes to her have been less than great.
I know, she's from UCLA, lighten up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the passes to her have been less than great, and that's why she can't get the best sets off as well. So
she did. She had a lot of difficulty last night, and we were making comments saying, well, she's not getting good sets up, but when she could not get a good pass to her, and she had to run and hustle and get out of position to try and set it to a spiker, she never got a good setup to them.
So it all starts with the first receiver of the ball.
You know, Michelle Boyette, too, at UCLA was a cum laude. She made the chancellor's list.
A lot of people don't know it about you, Ann, because they know that you
didn't
played
make the chancellor's list.
But they know that you played a lot of basketball at UCLA, but they don't know that you did play some volleyball there as well.
I did play 2 years at UCLA. I try and be versatile. Melissa McClendon with the kill. She's really come on strong for the United States team. She really had to work hard for that position, and she doesn't look like she'd be a starter, but she really solidifies that middle.
Kemner with a solo block. It went around her. We go across to Kemner. Otani.
Nice up by Weisoff.
McClendon. Japan left nothing hit the ground. Here goes Otani again. Over a double block. Boy,
oh, nice set.
McClendon. That was pretty.
And Bond made a really good dig. The thing with the Japanese club is they dig everything, and you think, my gosh, I can't get anything down. And you think you'd give up because the Japanese don't. And that was a nice play by the Americans.
It's like one of those candles that doesn't blow out. You keep blowing it, the flame keeps coming back.
I've had quite a few of those.
4-4, Japan against the USA. This is game 1 in a best-of-5 match.
And that was not one of the better passes by Carolyn Kirby. Michelle Boyette had to come back behind that 10-foot line, and it was a nice block by the Japanese. Again, Boyette trying to hustle. 2 bad passes in a row for the Americans.
And excellent service by Umetsu.
Nice little soft shot.
U.S. was ready. Weisoff, it went off the block, and it was good anyway, so.
Weisoff used the net on that one.
Yes,
she planned
it that way. She said roll 6 inches to the right and then drop. Right on the line. That's control. Oh, into the net, McClendon.
First service error for the Americans.
And right now, Melissa McClendon wishes the camera wasn't on her. This is Ogani. Now watch how Ogani hustles on the Japanese side. We have a substitution here. Coming into the game is Kim Oden. Elena Oden. Kim Oden's her sister who plays at Stanford, and I always get those two mixed up. Elena Oden graduated from Stanford. Kim played for Pacific, NCAA champions.
Carolyn Kirby, again, who's a veteran, but as far as passing the ball, has a lot of difficulty we've seen from last night and tonight.
So our score, Japan 7, USA 4. The USA is elected to take a timeout as we take another look at the 7th point. And again, passing difficulties. 7-4 our score here in game number 1.
We'll return with more Turner Network Television Goodwill Games coverage after this from our local stations.
Today, confusion about the assignment and arrangement of heats. This is men's 1500, and you're looking at what was supposed to be the fastest field of the two heats that were run. The first was for slower, the second for faster. But as you see, the winner of that event there, Igor Lotoyov, finishes, looks up at the clock, then sees that maybe his time wasn't good enough to win, because the first heat, the one that was supposed to include the slower runners, included a man by the name of Pavel Yakolev, and his time was good enough for a gold medal. It caused a lot of confusion. American runner Steve Scott finished second in that race you just saw the finish of. That would have been a silver, but after they combined the times, it meant that Scott finished third for a bronze medal. It must be frustrating, and the athletes must feel victimized by the confusion out at the track. Our Craig Mosbach caught up with Steve Scott after the race, invited him to our studios, and talked to Steve Scott about his feelings about all the confusion that happened at Lennon Stadium.
Well, when you come into a race like this, you expect all the best runners to be in your race. You don't expect to have one of them shifted over to another race. And the way things have worked out today, it was definitely to our detriment for them to switch him into the other race.
Well, obviously that's what happened. Last minute switch, he's into the other heat. He runs a race with one of his teammates helping him and runs a fast time. When you got to your race, did you know that you had to beat his time to be the winner of the race overall?
No, I absolutely did not. I didn't know, first of all, that he had switched to the other race. And secondly, I did not know, neither myself nor Jim Spivey knew that we had to be faster than the first race, which is totally messes up our whole race plan, because if I knew that we had to be faster than the first race, we wouldn't have let the race slide and go as slow as it did for the first lap or two. Jim and I would have changed our race plan and made sure that the race was faster, and who knows, the results could have been different. I mean, in a slow tactical race, you're really leaving it up to anybody, but we had confidence that we could outkick the Russians and come in first and second. As it turns out, we didn't. But if the race could have been faster, which we would have forced to do to get faster in the first race, things could have been different.
So you can tell from the words of Steve Scott that the athletes were, particularly the Western Bloc athletes, were very confused about what the rules were exactly with the first heat and the second heat. We will continue to follow this story, develop the story, and find out exactly what turns it will take. Earlier today, we talked with Dr. Leroy Walker and Olin Castle. We'll continue to do that and continue to follow that story at track and field. Marianne, another story to follow, though, is volleyball, and it continues to get hot.
Again, that key matchup between the United States and Japan. Let's rejoin Leander Riley and Ann Myers with a score at this point in game one, 11-6 in favor of Japan.
Terry Leskevich giving some advice to the USA team that now trails in game number one by 5 points. Japan is on top, 11-6. Japan also leads in the pool standings, 1 match to none. The USA is down, 0 wins, 1 loss. So the USA wants to get in the win column in the standings.
This is a nice one-on-one block by Kazumi Umetsu, and she's really excited about that because one-on-one, usually the United States wins.
12-6 Japan.
That was one-on-one, and Karen Kemner came through.
Weishoff serving. Ogani with the dump.
You almost knew that one was coming. The United States really didn't react well enough. The pass by the Japanese did not have too much loft on it. It was a line drive almost to Nakata, and she is known for dumping the ball right back over, and she got away with it again.
Midori Matsuzawa with the serve. Kirby finds a hole.
Through the block. And again, it was not that great a pass. Michelle Boyette had to hustle and get a good setup.
Marsha Bond to lead. Liz Massakayan will go into the game for the USA. Liz comes off the bench to play the back row and also to serve. She's very good in that position. Ooh. That one was spiked with authority. Kazumi Umetsu.
Umetsu has really been strong up at the net. If she's not blocking one-on-one, she's putting one down.
That was a fine play by Elena Oden because that set was less than illustrious, and she really made something out of it.
So was the pass.
This is true. This is true.
But we'll give credit where credit is due. Elena did a good job.
Yeah. Did you see Kirby slip on something on the floor and then still get a spike off of that?
Good athlete. And then they're getting bigger and bigger.
More and more players over 6 feet out there.
Good serve. Nice cross by Japan. When they can pass the ball well, they run a little cross play right here, fake the Americans out, inside out.
USA getting a floor wipe. As you look at Paula Weisoff on your left, Carolyn Kirby on your right, and in the background is Liz Masakayan. She's new to the national team. Just started in January or February this year.
Also from UCLA. Played with Michelle Boyette.
Plug those Bruins.
I've been plugging Paula Weisoff, USC. Elena Oden, UOP.
Good up. Boyette with the back set. Weisoff.
Nice save. Not hard enough in the net.
8 serving 12. United States trails by 4. 15 is a game. 3 games wins the match. And Japan has taken their first time out of the contest. Again, our score 12-8. Against Japan, our score is 12-8. Japan now has the service. This is game number 1. The United States has yet to win a match in their pool as they head to the finals of the Goodwill Games. Paula Weisoff from the outside.
Good back set by Michelle Boyette. Really mixed up their offense. Good fake in the middle. Nobody to the outside for Japan to put any kind of block on Weisoff.
USA team number 12 joins in the game.
Elena Oden waiting to serve.
Tough serve. Good reaction by Japan, but Marcia Bond, that was even a better reaction. The ball was up in the air for her to try and keep the ball deep. They almost missed each other.
Ties the net. USA gets it.
Another close one. And called a touch.
Boyette is questioning it. The official said no. So it was 12-9.
Well, the Americans, they had 2 chances. The ball was right at the net to push it over, and Japan beat them out on it. Ball not high enough, Michelle Boyette, but Japan in the net. Marcia Bond almost had to punch that ball over.
Lucky break for the USA. Boyette serving.
Free ball.
Kemner.
They really mixed that up well. Because of that free ball situation, United States was able to make a good pass, and Michelle Boyette had 3 options.
And that's out, and the USA is back in this ball game. It is 11-12 now. And Japan has taken their second time out. Again, our score, Japan 12, USA 11.
We'll return.
Head official, first referee for this volleyball competition, USA against Japan. USA now just trails by 1 point in this first game, the best-of-5 match. They've been steadily closing the gap.
Good dig by Kirby.
Nice spike by Weisoff.
United States is able to run their offense a little bit quicker the last few times they've had the ball on their side. And with that, Japan only has a one-on-one block situation and can't take advantage of it. And the United States does.
And now, for the first time, the United States has the lead in a long, long time. 13-12. Came off the block, too far out of bounds for anybody from the U.S. team to handle it. Nice effort by Kemner, but it was just out of reach. So it'll be side out Japan.
You know, the Japanese are very deceptive because of their size. You know, there's only one player on their team that is 6 foot, but they are very strong at the net. They don't look like they are, but they've really hit some hard balls. And a couple of times when the ball has been tied up right at the net, they've been able to push it over.
Weisoff. Well-placed shot.
That is a very smart move by Paula Weishoff. She saw nobody on that one side and just wipes it over, clean over, and it hits right in.
That says a lot for her ability, because not only is she up there, she has to make so many decisions. Where she's going to push it. Will she spike it? Will she dink it? Will she just touch it over?
And it's a reaction more so than a thinking thing.
It's not a conscious process.
Good block.
Oh, into the net in the back court. 12 serving 13. Matsuzawa will serve for Japan as the U.S. gets a floor wipe. Volleyball is a game of emotions and a game of almost like a pendulum. And right now, momentum seems to be a little bit in the USA's favor. But when the score is this close, when you're up by only 1 point, 13-12, you really don't want to give up the service too easily.
The momentum can change just like that. You miss a couple, you miss your hitter, you miss a couple passes off a serve, somebody blocks you, and all of a sudden it changes.
They were down 12-10. They came back 13-12, and now it's tied at 13-all.
One-on-one block.
That may swing the pendulum back the other way.
Kemner's so strong, just puts it right down. Japan just can't even get down to dig the ball on that one.
Bonds just got to get her serve in. Let the offense do the rest. Ooh. Hero. There she is.
Oh, I like that. Good analogy.
If they win, she will be.
That's right. Good dig.
Bad pass, though, for Japan. And the United States capitalized on it. They were ready at the net.
Kumi Nakata complaining that the Americans were over the net and interfered with the ball on her side, but she didn't get the call.
Still 13-13. U.S. has the serve.
Off the block. Good hustle by Kirby.
Boyette spiking herself. It's still alive. It's good. The volleyball can be hit with any part of the body above the waist, so when it dinks off your shoulder and chest, it's okay.
Look at this dink by Hero. She just sees nobody up there, and she almost just throws it. Internationally, you can get away with a little bit more throwing the ball up at the net than you can collegiately back home in the United States. Japan was ready for it. 3 blockers.
Oh, what a miscue that was.
Well, a little bit of a mix-up. New player with Elena Oden didn't know whether to get out of the way, and Carolyn Kirby, a veteran, she wanted to take it, couldn't get to it.
Game point at stake. It is 14-13. They go back to Kirby. And that comes back on the wrong side of the net for the USA, so Japan takes game number 1 by a score of 15-13.
So as we saw in that all-important women's volleyball matchup between the United States and Japan, USA now down by 1 game. Final score 15-13 in game 1. Let's rejoin Leander Riley and Ann Myers now as game 2 begins.
This is game number 2 between the United States and Japan. And the United States is dressed in the dark uniforms. Japan is dressed in the white. They took game number 1 by a score of 15-13, a closely fought battle. And now we're ready for our second game of the contest. The United States needs to win to stay alive in their pool.
Good dig by Japan.
Nice up by Kirby. Nice reaction by Oden, just backing off the ball. Good rally. Kazumi Umetsu putting it down the line, but it went out of bounds, so the USA gets a chance to serve.
She had the opportunity. Nobody was there. Went out of bounds. A change for Terry Liskevich in his lineup. Instead of Melissa McClendon at the middle blocker, he has kept the rookie Elena Oden in.
That's the first time in this tournament that we have seen her start a match, or start a game.
And really, that first game, Melissa McClendon, when she was in there, she had quite a few spikes. Good dump play. Kumi Nakata, the setter for Japan. When that ball comes up that high, she just, you don't know what she's going to do. She's so deceptive, she can do it left or right-handed.
She's very, very talented, and she also has great depth perception and great peripheral vision. She can tell where people are so quickly. Oh, Odin.
United States running the middle, which is what Terry Liskevich wants them to do, but they need to get more kills and get some points off those kills. Off the kills, they're only getting side out, and there's a service error.
0 serving 0 still in game number 2. We take a look at Vladimir Gennady. Trying to get all the balls to the right end of the court. Boyette goes out to Kirby.
Your hero.
Again. Gets Japan their first point. But actually the hero on that play was Nakata, the setter. They're mixing it up so well. Boyette to Bond. Tries a soft touch, but Japan's ready. Now the USA was ready.
Good cross by Japan.
U.S. thought they were going to hit on the second. They subbed it backwards and came in from the outside.
Sachika Atani from the back. Little back set coming around on that cross play.
Otani's a real veteran on this team. Did a game where she was playing back in 1983.
We had talked earlier, Leandra, as far as these teams have met so many times. This is probably the 9th time that they've met, and the United States has only won 3 out of those 8 matches, and this is going to be a tough win for them if they can get it out of Japan.
And when we say these teams, we're talking about the present composition of the USA team. We're not including all the 84 Olympians who played on the U.S. team. We're taking this batch of players.
Well, the thing is, too, when these teams played, when you say Japan, the United States, the last 3 out of the 4 matches have won, but those were against club teams, not against the national team, which this is.
Side out for Japan. And they're really in control in this game. 3-0 is our score. Of course, they won the first game. If they win a third game, they'll win the match.
America
good assistance for Kirby.
They were fortunate on that one. They kind of looked at each other and just went out. Good serve.
Very good serve, because it was a bad pass. Bad luck for the U.S. Took a funny bounce off the block, side out for Japan.
Nori Hiro has really been strong up at the net for Japan. Not only hitting-wise, but blocking. United States running their outside game a little bit more, trying to confuse Japan to try and keep them in the middle so they only get up for a one-on-one block situation.
Bound with a service.
Nice.
Matsuzawa.
Japan has really been attacking strong at the net, and the Americans really have not been digging the ball like Japan has. There's that back set.
Nice cross-court effort by Paula Weisoff.
That was a great angle by Weisoff, and Atani almost dug it. I mean, they had somebody there to get a hand on it.
The USA is still not on the scoreboard. In the second game, they trail by 3 points.
A lot of side outs in these games.
The national governing body of, the international governing body of volleyball is experimenting now with the rule that you would score points on all rallies, not just on service. It would make the games go much quicker. It would be interesting to see how they elect to receive the information they've been getting on it so far, whether or not they're going to adopt the rule change or not.
Well, if it comes into play, it'll probably be after the 1988 games.
And not before this telecast ends, is that?
No such luck.
3 serving 2. Long roundhouse serve. Kemner
using
goes
the
off the
block.
Waist off.
And when you go up and do a spike like Kemner just did, do you just try to hit into the spike and clobber it, or do you actually try to deflect it off their hands at a certain angle?
Well, first of all, I can't do it like Kemner. But again, it depends on where the block is, how many you're up, and it's such an instinct and a reaction. You can see where the defense is because you've played so long and you react. And if the defense is good, it depends on where the ball is. If it's close to the net, if it's too high, your timing is off. And if you want to use the block, you use it. If not, do you have the line open? Do you have the cross court? So there's a lot of things you take into consideration. But you react very quickly, and you only have a short time to...
I'd say you have a lot of options in just a second and a half there.
But it's, for example, like tennis. I mean, if somebody comes to the net, do you hit down the line? Do you hit cross court? Do you hit it deep? Do you keep it short? But you play so long, and you're so good, like Kemner right there. She had no blocker up, and she just swung, had her arm up high, good arm swing, and just snap the wrist and put it down. Sometimes if the ball's a little bit closer, they can put it down within that 10-foot line if no blockers are up.
Kemner with the service.
Second service error of this game for the Americans. They had one service error in the first game.
And they had 16, you said, in their match against North Korea yesterday.
That was a lot.
2 serving 3.
They really look a lot more consistent serving today, though. Little soft hit by Weissoff. That was a smart play. She had no blocker up, but she saw where the defense was. Defense thought it was going to be a strong spike at them, and they were ready. I think they all braced themselves, and it didn't come as hard as they thought it would.
It's like going up a flight of stairs, and you're expecting the last step, and it's not there, and you take that stumble step.
We've had a couple of those here, haven't we?
March to Bond.
Good quick set to Bond. Little jump set by Boyette. When she gets a good pass to her, she can make that little jump set and use some different options on where to set the ball. Right
in the middle.
Through the block.
USA with a 1-point lead, but Japan has the service and could tie things up. Even if the USA loses this match, they still have a very slim chance of surviving the pool. The best 2 teams in the pool will go into the championship round, but they would have to hope that a lot of bad things happen to a lot of other people. And that is not likely. You always want to control your own destiny and win it outright and get into the finals yourself.
Well, Czechoslovakia obviously would have to lose to the United States tomorrow night.
And
North
of the first
Korea
scenarios.
would have to lose to Japan, because you know Japan is going to come
in.
number 1 out of this pool.
So now the United States has got to hope for the next best record in the pool, which means everybody else in the pool has to lose except the U.S. And that could happen. But they'd rather get into the finals by winning. 3 serving 4. This is Ogani. Michelle Boyette will serve for the USA. 4-3.
Nice up by Kirby.
When Matsuzawa's in the front, they do that short set so well.
Nice back set. Smart dink by Umetsu. Here are the 2 blockers up for the Americans, and they're way back defensively, and Kirby probably should have been the one coming up on that.
The U.S. seems to have the most trouble when Umetsu's in the front line. She mixes up that offense so beautifully. They do the short set to her. She's a very effective dinker. She can place the ball anywhere.
Well, I think, too, with the United States, and there's a little bit mishit, but Oden able to keep the ball over. Good hustle by Boyette, because, again, nobody was there. At least Boyette got a hand on it. But defensively, the United States have put in, and Terry Liskevich has put in a new defense for them, so they still really are trying to adjust to it. It's a rotation defense where the three back players rotate wherever the set is going to be opposite. And they have to rotate to that, but Japan is really using that dink well, and the United States is not able to get up there and recover.
It's interesting with Liskevich having Elena Oden in there. He has more power in the front line, but I don't think he has the quickness that Melissa McClendon offers.
Well, he hasn't really used the middle that much. With Oden, I think she's had maybe 1 or 2 kills when she's been up at the front. But again, it depends on where the pass has been for Michelle Boyette. She has been really hustling her tail off to try and get some sets up for her hitters.
4 serving 4. There's Oden.
Oh, got the same thing.
There's an echo. So she is very effective when they can get to her under the right circumstances. Next serve, that's 2 in a row. Our score is still 4-4.
Not a good pass by Paula Weisoff. She was backing up a little bit. Nice overset for Japan. They took advantage of it. Just put their hands up. Nice dig. Ooh, they keep it alive.
How demoralizing. It's still alive.
Ball never went. Kemner didn't get her over the net.
United States takes the timeout. The score, Japan 6, USA 4.
Turner Network Television. Portions of the 1986 Goodwill Games are brought to you by Skin Bracer. It's skin care that feels good, takes care of men who take care of their skin. Skin Bracer Aftershave by Menon.
Well, volleyball is turning into an interesting story, one that's very difficult to predict. Remember, most of the experts thought it would be Soviet Union, Japan, USA. When they get down to the medal round, USA hanging by the thread of a very thin wire, and it's becoming very, very interesting. We will continue with coverage of the Goodwill Games in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Volleyball action continues here at Lenin Central Stadium, small arena. Leander Riley along with Ann Myers, and as you can see by the Soviet scoreboard, the USA trails Japan by 2 points. It is 6-4 with Japan winning the first game 15-13. This is the second game in a best-of-5 match.
Nori Hiroa with the serve. And the United States is starting to pass the ball a little bit better and right on the line for Kemner.
Kemner will go back and do the service. Oh, wait, looks like we're going to have a substitution. Coming into the game for the first time is Angela Rock, and she used to be a starter.
Well, difficult transition for the United States and Angela Rock to come off the bench, and she has not been playing a lot. With Paula Weisoff coming into the lineup just for a few weeks, Angela Rock has had to make the adjustment.
Side out for Japan, and going back to serve is Kumi Nakata.
Kumi Nakata has been super up at the net. She's a setter, she's left-handed, and that left hand really throws the other players off.
Good fake by the U.S. And it'll be side out again. USA gets another chance to get on the scoreboard.
Carolyn Kirby with the back set from Michelle Boyette, and Japan just can't get a hold of it.
Number 4 for Japan, Midori Matsuzawa, as they wait for a floor wipe. A little fake out on the serve. You have to wait for the official to beckon you before you can serve. Otherwise, it'll be a reserve. Nice back set, but nobody's there. That's a first.
You don't see that too often from Japan. Everybody was mixed up, and it was a good back set.
Beautiful.
But the hitters just got confused on where to go. Good up that time. Ball is wide.
And this game is now tied. That's 2 quick points for the USA, and it is 6-6.
And that's what the United States needs, is a little bit momentum their way as far as getting some points in succession instead of from side out to side out to side out.
And again, they're delaying the game with the floor wipes.
And this really helps Japan as far as stopping the momentum for the United States.
Oh,
And that's exactly what happened.
Just when you get the momentum going, into the net. Another service error for the USA.
And they've really had too many. They had an awful lot last night, too.
Norihiro serving for Japan. Bond with the fake. Weishoff goes into a block, but the USA handles it. Bond goes up again. This time she lobs it easy over the block. All the way across court. Nice hit by Sachiko Otani. She's a veteran on this team.
Japan really mixing up their sets, blocking well, and when they blocked the ball, they were able to dig it, get good sets off. Not a good pass.
Point for Japan.
Again, difficult time trying to pass that ball.
Marcia Bond, beautiful.
Angela Rock did make a good pass. She was really backpedaling on it. Michelle Boyette, little jump pass right in the middle to Marcia Bond.
6 serving 8.
Boy, Japan's quick on those sets.
Weishoff going all the way down the other side, and Japan was just pulled way to the left. She sent it down to the corner.
Well, even though there's a double block going up here for Japan, Paula Weishoff just goes right over the block.
Marcia Bond serving. Weishoff.
Good dig.
Yes, that's twice in a row she's gone to that spot, and it's been effective.
It was a nice try by Japan. They got their hands on it, but Paula Weishoff was a little bit too strong.
This game is all tied up at 8. We have a substitution for the USA. Liz Masakayan will come in for Marcia Bond.
Masakayan, another good back row player and another good server.
A starter at UCLA. Just finished her volleyball commitment there, as well as her academic commitments, and joined the national team in 1986.
Way to keep the ball alive. Ball to Elena Odom, and a good hustle by the Japanese.
Out of bounds. Point USA.
That's too bad because they made a good effort to try and keep that ball alive.
9-8. The score is 9-8.
Tough serve.
Beautiful.
Nice.
They're so good at that short, quick set. And it's not like they do anything powerful with it. It's just the timing is so great. Nobody can react.
They react so quickly, as you said, Leandra. And the thing that also helps them is that they've been together for so long. There are an awful lot of experienced players that have played together, and they know what they're going to do with each other out there on the court. That's the disadvantage that the United States team has, because they're all trying to get used to each other.
And that's Elena Odom, a freshman at the University of the Pacific. Well, she'll be a sophomore this fall. She has some power in that front row.
Good quick set by Michelle Boyette. And as you said, she's a freshman at UOP. She just joined the team a couple weeks ago. And a little bit of change-up, as we had mentioned earlier, Elena Odom starting in the second game over Melissa McClendon.
Short set was handled this time by the U.S. The U.S. is dinking too high. Japan has way too much time to react to it. It was called.
Well, the sets have not been very good for them for enabling them to keep the ball in the court. That time, Paula Weishoff had to go way to the outside, and she doesn't use her left hand that well.
8 serving 9. Roundhouse service by Japan. Oh, mishandled pass.
Good serve. Japan, very interestingly, has gone a lot of their serves to Carolyn Kirby. Carolyn Kirby was setting for the team, and now she has made the adjustment as an outside hitter, which means she has to pass the ball more.
Naomi Masuko serving for Japan. It is tied now, 9-9.
Again, not a good pass.
The passes are not good. Either those serves are very deadly, or the U.S. is not in good position.
Well, they make up for it with a running hit right there, but it was a tough pass to handle.
Still 9-9. Well, was Weishoff serving.
Good dump play by Japan. Nikado with the right hand that time.
Serving so deep. 9-9. Off the block, and it goes out of play for Japan. The United States gets a side-out substitution. Liz Masakayan will lead the game. Marcia Bond comes back in.
You know, we saw Angela Rock hit that ball. She's the smallest player on the court for the United States at 5'8", and the strongest. She bench presses over 200 pounds.
And that one finds the ground. Marcia Bond, very effective in the middle and front.
When the United States can run their middle attack, Japanese are just going to key in on that, and that will open up the outside game for the United States. So they need to run that middle a little bit more.
Again, another floor wipe. Elena Oden waiting to serve.
Another quick serve. They missed it that time.
Yeah, the set wasn't just right. The call on that one is it's good. That's Angela Rock. Again, the small spark plug.
Watch her back up off the net. She gets away very quickly and comes back and right down the line. Japan had a player there, but she thought it was going to go out.
Oh, and that one finds the ground. The USA scores another point. 12-9, USA.
Good break for Carolyn Kirby. She thinks so.
And a timeout has been called, so we are going to break away from the action here. Our score, 12-9, USA.
Enjoying the volleyball. Remember now, the U.S. women lost their opener to North Korea, so it's a must-win game today, match with Japan, for the U.S. to stay in medal contention. Japan won the first game in this match, the United States leading 12-9 in this second game. We'll be rejoining it in just a moment, but cycling started today at the Olympic Velodrome. Jonathan Boyer, Kevin Christopher will be there. Jonathan Boyer, by the way, a cyclist himself, brought his cycle here to Moscow. You see very few bicycles on the street, so Jonathan has been auspicious in his presence here in Moscow. Let's go now to one of the most beautiful and unusual venues for any of the sports, and that is the Olympic Velodrome, built in 1980. Siberian larch is the area from the kind of wood that the track is made out of. It is cured, some of it for as long as 12 years when they replace the wood. It is an amazing building, no post to block views. I think you'll enjoy seeing it. Let's go now to Kevin Christopher.
Up next, the second American racing here at the Velodrome at Krylotskaya. This is Russell Mead, and once again, aerodynamics, the watchword here.
He's got 2 disc wheels, but both 27-inch. He doesn't have the funny bike. He's got the larger wheels both on. He looks great. He did a very good start.
Again, wearing that plasticized suit.
First lap looks good. These Americans really look good here. They've come here.
24.61. Russell Mead really starting to crank it now for the United States.
That second lap looks good. He's a little bit wobbly on the track, but that means he's going out. He's concentrating just on pumping those pedals.
All right, Russell Mead, as he comes around the turn into the second lap, we'll give you the split time. Russell Mead, 1 lap to go. 44.91 after 2 for Russell Mead.
He looks strong. He looks smooth. Hope he can just keep it up. He's coming into that barrier. Is he going to make it? Is he going to pull right through it? He looks like he is. He's going pretty hard there.
Looks pretty good. Russell Mead headed for the finish line. 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 51 for Russell Mead of the United States. You're going to hear from the crowd right now for this next cyclist. He is Otar Mehedishvili of the Soviet Union, and his bike looks virtually identical to the one used earlier by Aldis Bremanis, who wound up, of course, in first place with a personal best time here.
This rider is not as tall as some of the other riders. 5'11". He's got a lot of beef in him, 176 pounds. Very young rider, 20 years of age, and his personal best time was 1 minute 5 seconds, so he's a very fast rider. He's got a really good start there. These Russians, you can tell, they're really after a win here. He's keeping that pace up. He's sitting down way late. He's going to have a really fast time. You can tell the way he comes through those bankings the first lap.
23.69 on the first lap for Otar Mehedishvili of the Soviet Union.
He's keeping up. You can tell that crowd really wants him to keep going.
Mehedishvili has got the crowd going, that's for sure. Now if he can just keep it going through that wall. Coming into the second lap, Mehedishvili of the Soviet Union, second lap split, 43.33.
That's a very good time. He's got that last lap coming into him now. You can see he's hit that barrier, but he's going through it. He's really
going for it. He looks real strong.
Guy's hit a barrier. He's slowing down pretty much now. He might not beat that other rider, but he's certainly trying.
103, 104, 104.58 for Otar Mehedishvili
That
of the
puts him
Soviet
in
Union.
unofficially second place overall. Andreas Gansky from East Germany. This is the first East German rider. They have been well known to be one of the best kilometer riders in the world. He's got a really good start here, you can see, but he doesn't have disc wheels. He's going to have a disadvantage here without the disc wheels, but you can tell he's a real strong rider.
Staying out of the saddle a long time. There he goes. Into the
back
curve.
down. He's getting back in, getting into his rhythm now. He's really fast there on the turn. He's got a fast 23.61. That's one of the best first laps. The guy's keeping it up. He's really pumping there. You can tell. He's really pumping even harder there.
Andres Gansky of East Germany headed down to a second lap split of 43.27.
He's still got a really good time despite those disc wheels. He's keeping it up. He's keeping it up. The crowd is really cheering him on there. He's hit that barrier you can see there, but he's really going through it well.
Gansky of West Germany as he heads for the finish line. 104, 105, 105.42 for Gansky of East Germany. Philippe Boyer,
national champ in 85 and 86 for this event. Flew in yesterday, leaving tomorrow morning.
Now, we mentioned that he's 30 years old. What is prime time peaking in terms of age in an event this demanding?
I think the Soviets, they're very young riders. It really depends on the riders. You got to be around 22, I'd say, to 26 to have the best time.
So what you're saying then is Boyer is over the hill.
I would say that, but he got second last year.
Second in the world's in Italy, though. I guess experience accounts for something, right?
He's got a lot of muscle. He had a pretty good start on the first lap here. He's got a rear disc wheel. He's got a lot of power. You can see him powering right here, 24.99.
Not bad, but not quite as fast as the Soviets. Philippe Boyer of France on his second lap. Boyer pushing it pretty hard right here, Jonathan.
You can tell he's got a really smooth pedal action. That's one of the reasons why he's so efficient on the track and why he does such good time. Clash decides.
After two, almost 45 seconds. I don't think that's going to be enough once he hits that wall.
It's not going to be enough. We're going to see a Soviet 1 and 2 today. But Philippe still trying hard there. He's going to have a okay last lap, but he did hit that barrier pretty soon. He's trying hard. Here he comes in.
106.47. Still not a bad way to spend an afternoon in Moscow for Philippe Boyer of France. As anticipated, the Soviets and the East Germans, who have raced plenty on this track over the last 6 years. The Soviets finishing 1-2. Aldis Bremanis turning in the best time, 103.56. That's also a personal best for him. In second place, Otar Mehedishvili. Try saying that 3 times fast. His time, 104.58. And the East German, Andreas Gansky, finished third place for the bronze medal with a time of 105.42. Meanwhile, the 2 Americans in this event, David Brinton, finished in 6th place, while Russell Meade Jr. finished 11th.
Now go ahead and do the 2 trophies.
Germany.
And welcome back to our coverage of the Goodwill Games. You recall when we left the second women's volleyball game, the United States had started out much better off than they did in the first game, which of course they lost to the Japanese. The United States had a 13-9 lead, but the Japanese team has rallied. The score now 14-13. Let's join Leandra Riley and Ann Myers at game point.
USA trails by 1, 13 serving 14. The USA's to win. They must score 15 points. Okay, once again, we are in a game point situation for Japan. They lead by a point.
Japan, a great pass to the setter, Nakado, and Nakado, a quick set to the middle to number 4, Matsuzawa, and she puts it down for a kill.
Off the block? Yes. Side out for the USA.
United States comes right back. A lot of side outs in this game. Neither team has really put together a string of points.
Oh.
Another service error for the Americans that really has killed them both nights.
Especially when the score is 14 now for Japan and 13 for the USA.
You can't afford to make a mistake like that.
Game point for Japan.
There you get a good pass.
Nice fake. And this time, the directed throw went out of bounds. So the U.S. is still alive.
Well, Japan had an opportunity to take advantage of that and get a point off it because they were wide open. They just threw it out of bounds.
Kirby goes up. And off the block, it goes way out of bounds. And we're now tied at 14. So that means our game will go to at least 16 points for a victory.
Kirby using the block well. Actually, Japan was up there. They just didn't have their hands turned to the inside of the court. Again, using the block. Keeping the ball in play.
You must win by 2 points. So even though the score is tied at 14, the U.S. needs 2 more to put Japan away. And that one is good. The score is now 15-14.
Tough hit by Karen Kemner right here. She was really off the net, and Japan was playing so deep defensively. She had so much snap on that ball, it dropped right in front of the defensive player.
Oh, side out for Japan.
Japan comes right back. Umetsu with a kill right here and a good set. The block not up in time, and she finds an open spot.
Another short serve by the Japanese. The U.S. is pulled so far up to the net. Oh, a little bit of luck on that one.
They'll take it. Defensively, nobody was back. Marcia Bond stuck out her hand, and if she hadn't done that, Japan might have gotten a point off it. Here it is. You see Marcia Bond. Nobody's behind her defensively, and they're able to keep the ball alive. There's a backcourt hit by Weissoff using the net and just falls.
And that was intentional.
Planned it that way.
Could be game point. No, not like that. It won't. I was about to say it could be game point for the USA, but it's not to be. Side out again for Japan.
Again, the Americans having a lot of trouble handling the serves from Japan.
14 serving 15. If Japan is to win, they must win by 2, so they'll need at least 17 points.
Just keeps going back and forth, back and forth. These kind of games just wipe you out, side out, side out, side out, and not too many points are being scored at a time.
Kirby.
Left hand.
Otani. Boyette goes
to the middle. They're ready for it.
Kirby.
Again the block. Keeping it alive.
And Boyette sends it over free, and they're saying someone was in the net, so it is a point for Japan. And once again, we are at deuce game. 15-15.
Well, Kirby went up for that hit, and when she came down, she came underneath, and her feet went underneath and hit some of the Japanese players, and that's where the call was made.
15 serving 15, so that means one of these two teams must score 17 to have a victory.
Japan on their serves, keeping the ball in. Nice middle attack.
Marcia Bond once again in the middle. She's so strong in that position.
And again, when the Americans can get a good pass, they can run their offense, and Michelle Boyd likes that little jump set.
Otani sends one deep. And as long as Japan keeps sending him that deep, the U.S. will be diving for him until they pull off the net.
Defensively, with that new rotation that the United States is still trying to adjust to, they get mixed up sometimes.
15-15.
There's another good pass.
Side out USA. When will it end?
Boyette able to use those options. She went for a back set, and they're able to put it back down. Got the ball back.
15-15. Looks like they may have an ace point here.
Boy, that's unusual, seeing that kind of a pass from Japan.
16-15. This is Carolyn Kirby.
Nice set.
That was an incredible set because she just did that with one hand and just set it up there.
The pass almost went over the net, but Nakato reached up with that one hand, kept it on her side.
What talent.
Boyette having to hustle to get over there.
The set was over the net. Japan gets it. No, they're going to say Japan was in the net first.
They interfered.
Let's take another look at that. Yes, she did. The ball had not crossed over the net. Good call, official.
The Americans were lucky on that one because that was not a good pass, and Boyette had to hustle to get over there. But there they come right back.
Say 16-15, they almost had a game point situation. Side out.
Good cross right here, and no block up for the Americans.
The second wave of the Japanese attack comes through, and there's nobody there to protect it.
Good short serve. Elena Odom. I wasn't sure. You said Marcia Bond. I thought it was Elena Odom. I can't tell.
They moved that fast
in the middle. Camera. Well, we're so high up. We got great seats up here.
Let's tell people where we are 3 stories up watching this game.
Through the windows. Anyways, it was a great kill.
Yes, it was. 16-15. This could be game point for the USA. Could be their first victory of the match. They trail 1-0. Oh, side out again.
Japan keeping the ball alive.
And we have a tremendous game here, and we'll be back with more after this.
We'll return with more Turner Network Television Goodwill Games coverage after this from our local stations.
Here at Lennon Central Stadium, small arena, doesn't get much better than this. We are now tied at 16-16. Japan with the serve. You must win by 2 in order to claim a victory. And right now, Japan is up 17-16. 1 more point, and this game is theirs.
Kumi Nakata, the setter for Japan, has been having a super game.
Deep service. That goes to Weishoff. The dink is deep. Weishoff off the block. Side out, a break for the USA. They're still in it. Now, the U.S. would have to win by 2, so that means our game would go to 19 if the U.S. were to win. Right now, it is 16 serving 17.
There has been some great digs in this game. The first game, Japan winning at 13-15. But this game, there's been some incredible digs by both ball clubs.
It was an interesting shot we just had of the bench because Melissa McClendon was a starter. She has been replaced by Elena Odom in this contest. And you know that she wants to get back in it.
I know it. And she's been playing really well. That is an ace by Paula Weishoff.
17-17. U.S. needs 2 more points, and you don't get them when you go into the net. Side out.
That is the 7th service error in this game for the United States.
Matsuzawa serving for Japan. And Odom gets it blocked right back to the backcourt. Point for Japan. They are now up by 1, 18-17. This is game point.
Norihiro for Japan, number 8, has done a super job at the net. They knew the ball was coming to the middle. United States really did not put any deceptiveness in that whatsoever, and Japan read it well.
Matsuzawa serving. Boyette sets to Odom, who goes right down the line. Very well placed.
That time, a good pass to Michelle Boyette. They thought they were going to go outside. Japan had 1 blocker up, and Odom took advantage.
Odom so strong at the net. Weishoff trying in vain to get it up. Kirby
good hustle.
Oh, inches short.
Well, Kirby had stuck her arm out to keep the ball alive, and it just went off it the wrong way. Weishoff looks like she landed on her hip a little bit.
Game point. Side out.
Whew.
U.S. needs 3, 1 to tie and 2 to win.
And these rallies have not been long. They've just been a lot of side outs.
Very intense battle.
And now when the United States, it's a close game and they need the sets, they're getting good passing. Before this game got this close, they were passing the ball well, and that's why Japan was able to take advantage.
the back row at all for the United States. Japan lucky and take advantage of it. There he is. Weisshoff sticking an arm out. Even if she doesn't stick her in to get the ball. And that was an effective shot by Carolyn Kirby. And that was a top shot by Carolyn Kirby. The line looked like it was blocked off, and she didn't go cross court. She went straight down the line, and there was even a digger there.
Bad pass, but they're making something out of it.
Lucky break for the USA, and it is now tied at 18. We've seen the Americans do that time again, setting to their back row players.
Now they need 2 more points to win this game. 18-18 is our score.
Almost didn't come up with that.
Boyette spiking, and it worked. 19-18, game point for the USA at stake here.
That's the first time Michelle Boyette has gotten involved as a spiker. Tough block, Boyette.
And that's it. The United States wins game number 2, 20-18. And this match is even at 1 game apiece.
So again, as we saw, the U.S. women's volleyball team coming back after a loss 13-15 in game 1, winning by a score of very tight 20-18. That, of course, does tie the game wins up at 1 apiece. There is more volleyball action to come to see who the match winner is. We will be bringing you more of that as our Goodwill Games coverage continues, and also some more cycling. So don't go away.
Was built specifically for the 1980 Olympics. Because of a uniquely designed membrane-shaped roof, the inside of the velodrome is completely free of all interior supports, which allows spectators complete visibility from all 6,000 seats in the facility. Unlike the 33-degree angle banking of the Los Angeles Olympic Velodrome and the Colorado Springs Velodrome, this track is an incredible 42-degree banking. The track is made up of blocks of Siberian larch that have been aged 12 years. The temperature inside the velodrome floats around 70 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. This is mainly to protect the wood, but also to keep the riders and the spectators comfortable. These factors contribute to making this track the fastest in the world. And already over 70 world records have been set here, and the Goodwill Games will give the cyclists another chance to break more world records.
These are the qualifying heats, the 4-kilometer individual pursuit from the Olympic Velodrome. And we have on our hands quite a race right here. Guntaras Omaris of the Soviet Union racing against that man, young Tim Hintz of the United States. You'll see Omaris in a minute. His previous world record that he held coming into this competition has been broken twice, both by teammates of Omaris. First by Vasily Shpundov and later by Alexander Krasnov. They have lowered the record some 4 seconds. Now it is up to Guntaras Omaris to see if he can drop it below 4:30.91, and he is looking awfully strong at this point with just 4 laps to go.
Tim is really holding him at bay. I would have expected this. I think the Russian probably expected to gain a little bit more in a little bit shorter time, but Tim is really looking good. He's shown a little bit tired, little bit of signs of fatigue, but he's still going strong.
As we alluded to just a little while ago, it's the old Satchel Paige syndrome. Don't look back. Somebody might be gaining on you. And I think it is working to Tim's advantage at this point to know that the Soviet is pushing so hard to go after another record.
This is very true. He might have his personal record. He's got 3 laps left, and he's still growing strong.
Guntaras Omaris closing the gap a little bit on Tim Hintz, but Tim Hintz hanging right in there.
Guntaras really looks strong. It looks like he's even picked up the pace a little bit from the previous lap. He wants that record. You can really tell. He's
1 lap to go for Guntaras Omaris. The world record stands at 4:30.91.
And we're not even up to 4 minutes already. Guntaras is really, really cranking it. He hasn't slowed down. It looks like he's even faster this last lap.
This is just amazing. Just amazing. Last lap for Bremanis. 4:30.91 is the mark he is shooting for. He will not catch Tim Hintz, but he may lower that record again. Guntaras Bremanis.
He's cranking in there. He's just got one turn left. Here he comes.
4:27, 28, 29, 30. 4:30.75. That is unofficially another world's record. The record has fallen again. I can't believe it.
Tim Hintz, a 4:39, which looks like one of his best records.
It would have been a great time before this competition started, that's for sure. But Bremanis has just lowered the world record again. He held it coming in. It was broken by Sprundov, broken by Krasnov, and now, again, broken by Guntaras Bremanis. 4:30.75, another world's record. The heats continue, and right now the heat is on Elstrechka of Czechoslovakia. He is being chased by Viacheslav Ekimov of the Soviet Union, who looks awfully strong to this point, John. He's got about 4 laps to go in this. Could we see this record fall yet another time?
He's passing the Czechoslovakian rider.
And passing him on the curve. It seems like he's... This is amazing.
Believe it or not, but this guy looks faster than the 3 Soviets that we've seen earlier, that all 3 have broken the record. This guy had a faster start. He looks faster now, and it looks like he's not even slowing down. It's just unbelievable what these Soviets are doing today.
If you've just joined us, we are at the Olympic Velodrome in Krylatskoye, and we have seen the world record in the 4-kilometer individual pursuit fall 3 times in the same qualifying heats. Each time by a Soviet. The record was held by Guntaras Bremanis. He has recaptured that record in the heat prior to this one. Now it is another one of his teammates, Viacheslav Ekimov, trying to lower the record yet another time, quite possibly below the 4:30 mark. This track is just like glass.
With 2 laps to go, the Soviet rider looks like he is even accelerating faster than ever before. He's just passed the Czechoslovakian rider, and he's closing in on that last lap. He's not slowing down. He wants to break that record, too. It's been done 3 times earlier. Why not do it again? Here it is, the last lap. That Soviet is just cranking.
The scoreboard here can't even keep up with the way this world record has been lowered. It still has the original one up there, but in the last hour it has fallen 3 times. Ekimov of the Soviet Union.
20 seconds. It looks like he's going to break the record again.
He is going to shatter it.
He's going to shatter it.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. 4:26.07.
We will note that this Soviet rider is the reigning world pursuit champion.
This is just unreal. Absolutely unreal. They have shaved some 8 seconds off this record in this qualifying competition. This is the final heat in the 4-kilometer individual pursuit. It is for the gold medal. It features Viacheslav Ekimov of the Soviet Union against his countryman Guntaras Bremanis. And what a story has unfolded here this evening at the Olympic Velodrome at Krylatskoye. The world record has been lowered 4 times. This race features the man, there he is right there, Guntaras Bremanis, who held it coming into this competition, later relinquished it to Vasily Sprundov and Alexander Karashov.
Ekimov is incredible tonight. You can see he looks almost as good as he did an hour earlier. He's gaining on the other guy, the other Soviet rider, and he really is pulling in strong. The Soviet rider, number 55, Bremanis, is not doing as well. He's really suffering from that hour earlier ride and is not recuperating as well. He's moving his upper body a lot more, but Ekimov is really closing in. He's got a really strong lead, and he is in there for the kill. He's in there for that gold medal.
In fact, Bremanis told us prior to this competition he didn't think there would be any world records set by him because he was a little out of shape. Of course, after seeing a couple of his countrymen take away his world record, lower it by some 2 seconds, he lowered it himself, only to have it taken away by the man who appears right now to be ready to overtake him, Viacheslav Ekimov.
Bremanis, as you see his specimens on his face, as you get a close-up, he is really suffering.
And here comes Ekimov. Here he comes.
There is the race. There is the gold medal.
That is it. Viacheslav Ekimov, what an evening it has been for him. The new world record holder with a time of 4:26:07 and the gold medal in the 4-kilometer individual pursuit. So that's the story from the Olympic Velodrome at Krylatskoye. The world record holder, Viacheslav Ekimov, 4:26:07. Also the gold medalist, as we saw the world record lowered here this evening 4 times. For Jonathan Boyer, I'm Kevin Christopher. We'll have more cycling action tomorrow from the Velodrome. We'll see you then.
Goodwill Games have been brought to you by Pepsi. When it comes to taste and refreshment, time after time, it's Pepsi, the choice of a new generation.
Welcome back to Moscow. We've been tracking the USA-Japan women's volleyball game. They are tied at 1 game apiece in the best-of-5 match. The USA women certainly have their backs to the wall, but they've been facing that all year. It is a new team, many new members with a new coach. The team has been really struggling all year long. Perhaps the cruelest piece of volleyball news this year was the death of U.S. star Flo Hyman. She died of a disease that few of us have ever heard of, a genetic defect that occurs in 1 out of every 10,000 people.
To everyone who knew her, she was Flo. But for the record, Flora Jean Hyman will be remembered as the best woman volleyball player the United States ever produced. At 6 feet 5 inches, she was a dynamic and unselfish athlete, the spiritual leader of the 1984 silver medal Olympic team. Flo often played part of the season in Japan, where she was a national hero. Far away from home and without warning, this was to be her last game. Her death came as a complete shock. The Japanese coroner's report, heart failure. It was so unbelievable, so out of keeping with what everyone knew about Flo, that her family ordered an autopsy.
When the autopsy was performed on Flo, the doctor called me up and said, well, yes, we see exactly what happened. It wasn't heart failure. What it was exactly was a dissecting aorta aneurysm. And I said, well, what is that? He said, well, it's just like a rupture. There's a weak spot on the aorta. It expanded, it burst, it dumped the blood into the pericardium, or some such term, and smothered the heart, essentially. Very quick. Nothing anyone could do about it after it happens.
But the condition that caused it has a name, Marfan syndrome. More than 400 Marfan patients a year come to Baltimore for treatment.
Marfan syndrome is caused by a single mutation or change in a gene, and there are over 5,000 conditions that are like that. Marfan syndrome is one of the more common of those, but nonetheless, there is a vast array of them, and it's often only the specialist in genetics who can keep many of those conditions in the forefront of his or her mind, and so there's a problem with recognition.
Commonly believed to be prevalent among blacks, Marfan's is genetically indiscriminate. It is characterized by various traits, all of which result from genetic defects in the growth of connective tissue. Marfan's is as common as hemophilia and sickle cell anemia, and one of its characteristics, an enlarged aorta, such as Flo Hyman had, is actually life-threatening. But there is an operation that could have saved her.
The aorta arises at about mid-chest level from the pumping chamber of the heart and curves around the upper chest and then down the back. The aorta itself is 1.5 feet or so in length. It is usually only the first several inches right here where it leaves the heart that enlarge in Marfan syndrome and give the problem that leads to sudden death. But by replacing this area in the operation, we remove that major region of weakness.
Marfan's is but one of 5,000 genetic diseases. Unfortunately, the coroner is often the first to detect it. Before Flo Hyman died of Marfan's, the disease was truly obscure and knowledge of it scarce, even among many doctors.
But you know what? He never mentioned Marfan's once. He never mentioned, you know, Suzanne, this is caused by a little-known condition, Marfan's. There's evidence of Marfan's here. Maybe, and Marfan's is hereditary. Marfan's, if your parents have it, their kids have a 50% chance of getting it. Maybe the rest of your family should be checked out. The doctor never said that. I talked to him several times. My sister talked to him several times. He never mentioned Marfan's once.
The family gave permission for a Goodwill Games reporter to question the autopsy pathologist, Dr. Frank Rosen.
When you had your first conversation with Suzanne after you finished your report, did you mention Marfan's to her?
We may have listed it as cystic media necrosis, which is really, you know, the pathologic diagnosis for Marfan syndrome. I think that we did bring up the word Marfan's, though, but, you know, she was so distraught at the time that, you know, these things could easily have passed over her.
Almost immediately, Flo's legacy became one of alerting others. Recently diagnosed as a Marfan patient, her brother Michael had the aorta surgery and will live a potentially long life as a result.
My sister told him, you know, hey, look, you know, I think everybody has to be checked because the pathologist, you know, explained to her in detail that it was a hereditary thing. And I don't know why, but he went down there immediately and had himself checked and found out that his aorta was enlarged 2.5 times normal size. And so the doctor gave him 3 weeks. He got a second opinion and same thing, 3 weeks. Even though we're sad, she just wasn't a nobody. She left her mark. And like I said, she gave my brother his life. So there was a purpose.
Just talking about it and remembering it, I feel like crying right now. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, certainly, because the bottom line is, you know, I want my sister.
We are continuing now to update you on the situation between the United States and Japanese volleyball teams, women volleyball teams. As you recall, Japan won the first game. The States won the second game. In the third game, the United States lost by a score of 11-15. So this fourth game, now in progress, is crucial. The Americans must win to stay in it. It's a best of 5, remember, so this is the key game. Let's rejoin our coverage with the score 6-6 in the fourth game.
Our score is 6-6 between Japan and the USA in game number 4. A shot that went off the block gives the point to Japan. It is now 7-6. Take a look.
Sashiko Otani really getting the ball down, knowing where the corners are, and the Americans are having a tough time defensively getting to where that ball's going.
Japan won the first game 15-13. The United States took the second game 20-18. Japan took the third 15-11. So in this match, Japan leads 2-1. If they win this game, they win the match and will be undefeated so far in these Goodwill Games.
This is the first time that Carolyn Kirby has come out of the match. She's worked awful hard, and Angela Rock, who's played well when she's been in there.
Ooh, Marsha Bond.
Good one set, and what enabled that, Paula Weishoff made a nice pass to Michelle Boyette so she could run that little quick set to the middle.
The timing is so important because Bond has to commit to that action before the set's even made, and Boyette's just got to put it in there. Well-placed shot by the Japanese.
Norihiro, a super play. She sees nobody in the back corner right there, and again, the Americans defensively getting caught out of position.
7-6. Boyette again putting it right in the arms of Marsha Bond. Nice block by the USA. Bond going up again. Side out. Marsha Bond has been exceptionally strong in this event.
You really don't even notice her. She's one of those type of players that she gets the job done, but she doesn't do anything spectacular, and she's such a super athlete.
This is Kathy Noth,
who is a setter, and Michelle Boyette, also a setter. So there's 2 setters in there for the United States. See what kind of offense they're going to run. 4-2 maybe. Tough dig by Kemner.
Net called against Japan. Kathy Noth will serve.
Noth just might be in there for defensive purposes as far as the back row is concerned and her serving.
Elena Oden on a solo block.
Japan hasn't made too many substitutions, but Ono, number 5, going to the middle, just really was no match for Oden.
And again, Japan tries to go through the U.S. wall. This time they go around it, and it works.
Ono, the left-hander, came cross-court on that, and defensively, Kemner not able to get over there in time for position. Got a hand on it, but that's all.
7 serving 8.
Had an awful lot of mop-ups, haven't we?
These players are pretty wet out there. It's hot, the lights are bright, and this is the 4th game. Another blocking battle between the USA and Japan. This time the USA wins it.
The Americans lucked out on that one. Otani really should have put that ball away because that was not a good pass by Kemner. It's what you'd call an overset.
As the match progresses, we're going to see more mistakes because fatigue is playing a factor.
And I have a tendency to think that Japan, because of their experience, they've been together a little bit longer, that they maybe might outlast the Americans in that because the United States has an awful lot of young players. They're like an all-star team. It's really the first time that they're playing together, everybody. Paula Weishoff is new, Elena Oden. Deidre Collins has been with the team, but they have brought her in just recently. Also Liz Masakayan. Michelle Boyette has only been with the team a few weeks, and they've left some good players at home, too.
I think you brought up an interesting point, Ann, when you said when you make that move from a college situation to a national team situation, you have to learn how to play a role, and that's so difficult to do. What we are witnessing right now is some questions about the substitution on the USA team and alignment as to who's serving. The official is indicating that the ladies must rotate one more position, that somebody else should be in the backcourt. That's head coach Terry Leskevich trying to straighten things out. They're going to put the ladies in their lineup to make sure that everybody's in the correct rotation. And it appears that everything is in order. Japan will serve. And Terry Leskevich seems to be getting the sign that everything's okay, don't worry about it, just a little confusion at the scoring table. Your players are in order. Now, he will protest if they take away a point or give Japan a point. He's looking disgusted. I think that may be what's happening. It is 7-7. The USA has lost a point.
The score is 7-7.
That's what happens when you serve out of order. If they catch it before the next point goes up there, which is why they stopped it before Japan scored, they can subtract that point. And that's exactly what happened. The wrong lady served that 8th point for the USA. So they have lost it. Our game is tied again, 7-7. And let's hope it doesn't have an emotional impact on the team and demoralizes them.
So the U.S. tied 7-7. Japan leading in games in that match, 2-1. We'll continue following it for you. Right now, though, we're going to bring you one of the events at track and field that you haven't seen yet. One of my favorite events. It's a very interesting event called the 3,000-meter men's steeplechase. 7.5 laps around the track, 28 hurdles, 7 water jumps. Henry Marsh, the American record holder, is a contender in this event. Let's go now to Charlie Neal and Craig Masbach at Lennon Stadium.
Charlie Neal along with Craig Masbach at Lennon Central Stadium. We are getting ready for the men's 3,000-meter steeplechase. This is the second and strongest heat of 2 heats in the men's 3,000-meter steeplechase. Bill Rogers will be joining us momentarily. He's making his way to our broadcast booth. But let's take a look at the field for a moment, Craig.
This is really one of the strongest fields in this competition, Charlie. I'm looking for some of the guys like Hagen Melzer of East Germany. He'll have a blue top on, one of the top steeplechasers in the world the last couple of years. And, of course, Henry Marsh and Jim Cooper of the United States. Marsh was the #1 in the world last year, had the fastest time in the world, and he's the American record holder. See Melzer taking the early lead there. And watch Boguslav Mamiński of Poland. He's been #3 in the world the last 4 years.
When you talk about Henry Marsh, 32 years of age, and he's had some problems in big meets such as this.
He has. He's had a series of misfortunes in major competitions, which have sort of overshadowed the dominance. He's won the American Championship 8 times, been #1 in the United States 8 times over the last few years, but he's a great runner. And of course the steeplechase is a great event because it combines stamina and technique. You see them going over the hurdle there. They've got to keep their eye on those hurdles at all times.
And then there's a couple water jumps, so that doesn't help the matter as much, does it? The 3,000-meter steeplechase, we talked about Henry Marsh, the American record holder. Well, let's take a Goodwill look at him.
I've never given up, and last year at 31 years old was the best year of my life.
Well, I think that I've been given a talent, and when you're given a talent and it's been so good to you as it has to me, running, and particularly when you're in the public eye, then I think you have a responsibility to put something back into it. And I am asked to speak a lot, and so I feel a responsibility to, particularly, you know, a lot of times I don't realize the impact that I have on youth. And a lot of times people come to me, parents, and they'll say, you know, we drove by your office, and that's all our kid could talk about was, hey, that was Henry Marsh's office. You know, and you don't think about that. You know, you're out trying to do the best you can athletically or with your family or professionally or religiously. And you're not really thinking about maybe what impact you have on other people. But when those stories get back to me, then I realize that I got a responsibility and obligation to go out and try to influence for good as many people as I can. And so I try to use those opportunities to talk to youth and encourage them to do worthwhile things with their lives and motivate them to try to be successful in their lives.
Go!
One of the greatest benefits of my running has been the time that I have been able to spend, particularly with my children, to go to their soccer practices, to have them go to my workouts with me. And a lot of times I'll take them down to our workouts and they'll play in the sand pit while I'm running laps. And a lot of times we've traveled together as a family and done training trips, gone to Arizona when it's snowing, or we went to Disneyland during the Olympic year and trained for 2 weeks. And so I've tried to incorporate my family and my children into my schedule, and being able to have a flexible schedule enables me to adapt a lot. And in the mornings, while my wife goes to aerobics, I can work out on the treadmill in the basement and tend, the children if they're back here. And so that's been a very, very positive aspect of running. And it's hard for me to imagine having to get up and leave the house and be gone all day long and come back in the evening and not be able to see the kids more during the day. I have some dreams. I don't know if they'll become realities, but I would like to, the main thing that I'd like to do is establish myself professionally so that I can take care of my family and have a good lifestyle and not be completely tied to my profession. And that's a tough thing to do because it seems like the more and more you get involved in a profession, the more and more time it takes. But one of my goals is to try to create a lifestyle such that we have a good income, a good living, and yet plenty of time for the family, which is the most important part of my life.
Along with Craig Masbach and Bill Rogers as we come down to the final stretch of the second heat. Again, we have those heat situations evident here in the steeplechase, the men's 3,000-meter steeplechase, 3,280 yards, just shy of 2 miles, 28 3-foot-high hurdles, 7 water jumps, which are 12 by 12, water level, even with the track. Runner must go over or through the water, and he can place his foot on each hurdle. The distance between each hurdle, 90 yards.
We've had Henry Marsh doing his usual routine, moving up from the back of the pack. He's now passing the Kenyan who led most of the race, Micah Boyne, an unknown. The Soviet and an East German from the GDR there is leading.
That's Matychenko, Bill, from the USSR. He beat the East Germans in a dual meet just 2 weeks ago, and that's Melzer of East Germany in second. But this is a beautiful setup. This is a beautiful setup for Henry Marsh, just the kind of race he likes. It always comes down to this, where Henry uses his wonderful hurdle technique to catch up over the last few hurdles on the last lap.
The problem here is that the Soviet made a move with about 300 yards to go. It's a long move, and whether Henry can catch him in time, I think he may have taken him by surprise.
Well, the key here is that Henry's got to keep his concentration while he's going over the hurdles. That's what makes the steeplechase such an interesting event. You've got a stamina event, a long-distance event, but you've also got to keep the hurdles in mind. You've got to use good technique over them.
The Soviets stumbled, and Marsh is catching up. It's a three-man race coming around the bend. Here's Marsh picking up on the outside.
This is where Marsh hit the last hurdle in the World Championships and fell to the ground. He's had trouble with these last hurdles in the past, but now it's a sprint to the finish.
Henry Marsh on the outside.
The East Germans moved ahead,
but the East German is going to win it.
That's a real upset, Charlie. Hagen Melzer of East Germany. He was beaten by Marsh just 4 or 5 days ago. He was only 5th in the World Cup last year when Marsh was 2nd. That's a real upset for him, and it's really Marsh, Bill, didn't seem to have the usual
great race. It was a great race, and I think the Soviet kind of, you know, they all know Henry Marsh has been around 10 years. He always used the same tactics, and they kind of tricked him a little bit. They moved early. They know his tactics now, and Henry ran tough till the end. He ran 2nd. He got the silver, but he still got that little jinx hanging over him at the big championships.
Well, he's 32 years of age, ranked #1 in the world a year ago, finishes 2nd, but again, we don't know the official results because we have to wait for the results from heat #1, and they'll combine those to give us our top 3 finishers.
We're going back now to crucial game #4 in the women's volleyball contest between the USA and Japan. We rejoin game 4. The score is in favor of the United States right now, 11-9.
USA with the serve. They're up by 2. They need 4 more to win this game and stay alive in this match against Japan. They're up by 3. It is 12-9. Nice block by Marcia Bond and Paula Weisoff. Nowhere for Hero to go. Good up by Kemner. Nice save by Kirby. Everybody was heading east, and they had to come back west. And again, Japan digging the ball. Nice soft hit. Too easy in offense. That's Hero going through the middle, right through the block. The United States could not get their block up. Weisoff and Bond had blocked a few before. Here they had 3 blockers up. With Boyette in there, and Hero went right through it. Doesn't matter if you have a lot of gaps. You have to be armpit to armpit when you're up on those blocks. You have to share deodorant just about. Side out for the USA, 12-9. As we've said in some of the past games, Leandra, the United States, when they've gotten a kill, it's always been on a side-out situation. They need to get more of those kills off point. Oh, no, with that left hand, it's communication. Nine serving 12. Referee saying, please tie your shoe. It's awful nice. He doesn't want an accident. White's off. There was good deception there. Japan was not able to get their blockers over in time, a one-on-one situation, and Weisoff had the whole court to hit to. Boyette serving. Up and over. I don't believe that. Net looked awful soft. Still up. Bond setting. Weisoff into a block. Great point. That was an incredible run. That was one that was more luck than anything. Well, I couldn't believe the United States was able to get that ball up off the net. 13-9. USA leads. Side out Japan. They do that a lot to the USA. They're going to have to come up with some sort of defense for that move. Again, that decision right there, the United States only getting 1 point out of that series. Side out going back to Japan. The United States has really not put together a string of points. Although neither has Japan. In fact, it's been a real clawing battle for both teams. But they've got more points than the United States. Not in this match, they don't. Not in this game, they don't. All together. Tough dig. Oh, they Odin dinks it over. Odin looked like she was on that net. They didn't call it. Japan keeps it alive. Boyette sets. Goes out to Kemner, goes over the block. I tell you, Kemner had 2 blockers up, and she just puts that arm up and high. She's so strong and goes right through it.
You guys, bear with me. I'm going for a jump serve. I'm going for it.
Might see the jump serve right here by Paula Weisoff. You're right. And that went into the block. The United States will not get the point. Net called against the USA. They had 2 blockers up. You could hear the bench saying, come on, we got to go for it. And that's why Paula Weisoff had that jump serve to see whether Japan would have difficulty handling it. And they did. 9 serving 13 for Japan. Back row hit. Long rally, hero. Yumetsu up for the kill. But what happened, Elena Odin went up for the fake in the middle and couldn't close that block in time to help Kemner out. Kick to the outside. Japan was ready. Nice block. Kemner goes all the way over to Kirby. Kirby going for the line. Thought she caught it, but it's out. And it is now 11 serving 13. And a timeout called by the USA. Once again, our score, the USA leads by 2. Japan serving, trailing by 2. Odin. Good up. Tsuzawa hustling. See if they can get all the way over. They do. Tremendous hustle by the Japanese team. Kirby sends it right back at him, and it's too long, and it is now 12 to 13.
And the United States tried to hurry that play right there. They saw that Japan was out of position defensively, and they tried to hurry it, and they could not get a kill down. Great dig.
It's a free one for the U.S. Kemner goes over to Kirby. Kemner's been setting a lot. And they said that ball was good, so the United States has now found themselves, instead of leading, in a tied situation. It was very good.
And Boyette and Weisoff just looked at each other and said, oh, no.
13-13. Again, you must win by 2. Liz Massakine back in the game.
One of the best passes for the United States.
Kemner on the bench.
But I bet you Japan tries and serves it to Kirby. Nope, I was wrong.
Odin gets it right back in her face off a block. Japan is now up 14-13. Game and match point on the line.
Going to Odin, which is really about the only set she could go with. And Japan knew it.
Massakine, bad pass. Coming over free. Kirby never went over. And it's over. Japan defeats the United States 15-13, winning games 1, 4, and 5. And the USA has found themselves really backed in a corner, and now they have to hope for a lot of scenarios to happen to stay alive in these Goodwill Games.
A lot of frustration out there, and again, a lot of young players that have not played with each other. They're still learning how to play with each other, but you have to give Japan a lot of credit. They played super. They dug everything that the United States threw at them.
Now what the United States has to hope happen as we watch this final point again. The United States has got to hope that Japan wins their next game, that the United States, wins their next game, and that North Korea and Czechoslovakia, in doing so, would both lose. Right now, the United States is at the bottom of their pool, 0-2 in these Goodwill Games.
Well, as you heard Leandra Riley explaining about what might happen there, the United States really out of medal contention. There are 2 groups of volleyball teams in Pool A and Pool B. The number 1 team from Pool A plays 2 in B, and then the 1 from B plays 2 in A. The United States not going to get into medal contention this year, and it's been a real struggle and a sad year for the U.S. women's volleyball team, but they are building. They have new players, and they're looking ahead to 88 Olympics, maybe 90 Goodwill Games.
We have to remind the folks once again that, of course, this is not the same team that won in 84, and they've got just a tough day ahead of them on their next day, because they lost their first game to North Korea. North Korea was beaten by Czechoslovakia, and now the U.S. has to end up playing Czechoslovakia. So there's not a whole lot of hope there.
We'll come right back in just a moment. Stay with us as we continue our coverage of the Goodwill Games.
We'll return with more Turner Network Television Goodwill Games coverage after this from our local stations.
Basketball highlights coming up shortly. In Group A of the Men's World Championship being played in Spain with Spain and Greece. Spain and Greece, two of the top teams in Group A. That'll come from Zaragoza, Spain. Right now we're going back to Lennon Stadium, though, for the coverage of the 4x400 event. And here's Charlie Neal.
It's time now for the women's 4x400 meter relay. Dr. Leroy Walker joins me for this race. The world record held by East German national team, 3:15.92. U.S. Olympic team of 1984 holds their American record, 3:18.29. The American team will consist of Chandra Cheeseborough, Brenda Clayette, Linda Leatherwood, and Diane Dixon, while the Soviet team, Irina Stepanova, Maria Penagina, Ludmila Zigalova, and Olga Vladikanina. And you talk about the three-turn stagger right here, Dr. Walker. The Americans on the inside and the all red, the Soviets, the red with the white shorts.
Well, Charlie, will be some distance between them as you see them start the race, because they do run a three-turn stagger. In other words, these open runners must hold their lanes all the way back to the pass-off, and the second runner must also hold the lane until he gets over to the other side of the track before the break.
The young lady on the left is Marina Stepanova, the Soviet Union, 36 years of age, won the 400 hurdles here just a few days ago.
You can see there's a considerable gap, but the turn will even out a little bit as they begin to get a little bit nearer. Cheeseburgers will sort of come from behind type anyhow, so she'll begin to close as the race nears the finish of this first leg.
Chandra Cheeseborough, silver medalist in the 400 meters in '84. She anchored this 4x400 meter relay team to win a gold medal in the 1984 Olympics, and she's about to pass off to Brenda Clayette of the United States. Meanwhile, Penagina of the Soviet Union, who ran on the '85 World Cup relay team, sixth in the world in '85 in the 400 meters, is running the second leg for the Soviets. And how important is this second leg? Everybody seems to focus on the open leg and the anchor leg. How about the second leg?
Well, it's a very important leg, Charlie, for a number of reasons. First of all, you ought to gain between 3/10 and 7/10 of a second on the pass in that first 100. And you need a person that will pull through very quickly in that pass. And also, depending upon what has happened in that first three turns, this individual is the one that's going to keep the thing in balance.
So the Soviets with Maria Penagina out in front right now. Brenda Clayette from the United States closing in. The pass off for the Americans to Lily Leatherwood on the outside on the left side.
A very passive pass, and everybody seems to sort of forget how important that pass is in the 4x4.
Zigalova from the Soviet Union out in front. Meanwhile, Lily Leatherwood, a member of the '84 gold medal relay team. She ran the open leg back in 1984. She's on the left, and she's trying to take the lead, and she just took the lead away from Zigalova of the Soviet Union.
And she's doing what is so important. You have to attack that backstretch. That's so important coming into the corner where she is now in order to be able to get into the straightaway with some momentum leading for those last 40 to 60 meters, which is important in order to give a good, strong pass to your teammate. You have to be moving with good speed.
Diane Dixon of Adams Track Club will be the anchor leg for the Americans. Olga Vladikanina from the Soviet Union will anchor the leg for the 400-meter relay team today. She anchored that 400-meter relay team at the '85 World Cup, and she was second in the world in '85, and look at her move out in front right now.
Well, this is a pass that's made on Diane, but it's not something that worries Diane. She's so strong that whatever you do against her in the early part of the race is not that consequential.
The American women have traditionally not done that well against the Soviets in this race, though.
I've watched these teams for a long time, and this is about as close as I've seen them in a race that's down to the ankle.
And there you see, all of a sudden, Diane Dixon starting to make a move on Vladikanina of the Soviet Union, and Dixon on the final 50 meters really kicks out in front, and it's going to be the Americans winning the women's 4x400 meter relay. And what a come-from-behind run there by Dixon. I say come from behind. She, like, just waited till the last minute and shifted into fourth gear.
She ran a very smart race. The thing to do when you have a lead is to make the opponent expend something trying to cut out that gap, which Diane did very well, and she had it left to sort of give the overburn when she needed it in the backstretch.
So we look at it down the stretch again as they come around the far turn, and you see Vladukina out in front, and here's Dixon starting to make her move.
Now notice how Diane is getting awfully good leg turnover here for the end of a race with good arm movement, and this is what is required. There is some deceleration, but you try to minimize it.
The Americans win the unofficial time 3:21.24. The official time 3:21.22, and the American team of Chandra Cheesebro, Brenda Cleette, Lily Leatherwood, and Diane Dixon win the women's 4x400 meter relay.
The USSR is the world's leading producer of cigars. The wardrobe for the talent of the Goodwill Games has been provided by the John White's companies.
Well, as you got to look at the 4 U.S. women in the 4x400 meter relay team that defeated the Soviets in that race, and we played the anthem, you can always see that the joy on their face is sincere. That must be some thrill to stand at the top of the podium.
Oh, yeah. And we've got some other events. We hope our American audience can look forward to hearing that one more time. And coming up later in this telecast, we'll be, of course, going back to Spain for men's basketball.
Greece and Spain were 2 of the top teams in Group A from Zaragoza. But right now, we're going to go back to Lennon Stadium and Charlie Neal, and he has action from women's javelin.
We're ready for the women's javelin. Craig Masbach joins me right now. The world record, 247 feet 4 inches, set last year by that young lady, Petra Felke, from East Germany. And this will be her first attempt.
You can see her as she stands there, Charlie. She's not one of the biggest javelin throwers in the world. She's only 5 feet 8, 139 pounds. But you don't have to be so big. You don't have to be super strong and big to throw the javelin well. And that's not like the shot put or some of the other throwing events. Technique is the most important aspect of the javelin, one of the most complex events in track and field.
She was #1 in the world in 1984 and 85. Petra Felke from East Germany. That's first throw.
That's a good throw, Charlie. Got pretty well out past the 70-meter mark.
And the measurement is coming up, but let's look at her form once again.
You can see what's so difficult about the javelin. You've got to generate speed on the runway and then turn the body around so that you can fling the javelin, being careful not to go over that line there. You can see she had good travel on the javelin. She had a good angle of release, which is so important.
It measures 70.78 meters. That equals 232 feet, 3 inches. So Petra Felke out in front in the women's javelin, and we have a Goodwill profile on the young lady from East Germany.
In the beginning, I wanted to become a heptathlete. In school, however, I found out that I could throw the ball very well, which is very extraordinary for a woman. That's the reason I started throwing the javelin. When I was younger, I also enjoyed cycling with my sister. But when she stopped, I also stopped. That's when I began in track and field. My coach already has ideas on how far I can throw. He says more than 260 feet. That's 15 feet over the world record, which seems quite unbelievable to me. I'd like to practice now, but it was not always like that, especially in the beginning. At first I tried to avoid heavy athletic training, but now I take my training very serious.
I must not push her too much. Actually, I must try to slow her down sometimes, because she is such an intense person. Everything she does, she gives 100%. Not only in athletics. Everything she does in life, she gives her best effort. Therefore, I must not push her too much in training, in her studies, or anything else.
For the moment, I am studying sports. Later, I would like to work as a sports teacher with handicapped children. I also like animals a lot. I used to have 2 birds and a mouse, but 2 years ago, I had to give them up because so much of my time must be devoted to training. Now I can only read about animals. Who is my dream man? I think that I'm past the age where men must be tall, dark, and handsome. That's something for teenagers. I think in a relationship, you must have understanding and respect for each other, with the precondition being honesty. As an athlete, you always try to be the best. For the past 2 years, I've been #1 in the world in Javelin. This keeps me going. It's a good feeling when you're on top.
#1 in the world the last 2 years. Last year, she won 25 meets in a row. No wonder she was #1 last year.
And she started off well this year through 2:39.9 in her first meet. Leads the world, but she hurt her back, so she's kind of on the comeback trail. Let's see how she throws here.
This is her second attempt. Petra Felke of East Germany.
You can see she had good speed, and it didn't travel as far, mainly because the angle of release was not as good.
And we want to remind our viewers that the women's javelin did not go through any changes as the men's javelin did.
Now, they weren't threatening the spectators like the men were yet.
Her second throw, 217 feet 5 inches, but she wins with the throw of 232 feet 3 inches to win the women's javelin.
Modern Pentathlon nearing a conclusion in both men's and women's events. Today, the 4th phase got underway, and it is the shooting. As you take a look where it's located at the Dynamo shooting range. And now let's join for the action Craig Sager.
They say put 2 Russians together and you've got a chess match, 3 and you've got a folk dance, 6 or more and look.
Even from the pressure of competition. Thinking must slow before the shooting begins. An athlete must try his best and yet show restraint as the trigger is pulled. As the clock winds down, the hand must steady. The pentathlete must rediscover his emotions each day for 5 days. It is the 4th day, the shoot, that is often the most emotional of all. The site is the Dynamo shooting range in the town of Mitishi. It is outside that one finds a break in the tension. For Natalia Andreeva, the women's champion, a place for the nerves to unwind. For Lori Norwood of the United States, this battle within thyself has often been lost. The shoot known to be the worst of her 5 events. Her first shot was perfect, and so was the next. At the end of the first relay, her score of 50 could be no higher. As the adrenaline began to flow, Lori found a way to have it suppressed. And with 196 out of a possible 200, she recorded the highest score ever by an American woman. Here are the standings for the 4th event. With 1 event remaining, Titania Czarniewska is in front. After the competition, Bob Neiman talked with Lori Norwood.
Lori, today you shot better than any woman ever for the U.S. team in a major international competition. What was going through your mind out there, and how do you feel now about it?
Well, I know that I've been shooting a lot better lately, but in any competition, everybody knows your nerves just go crazy. They just go, I think because I'm sort of in the upper middle of the pack right now. It's not as much pressure as maybe I would feel if I were at the top of the pack. But I have been shooting real well. And of course, when you shoot a 50 to begin with, you always think 200, you know, that it's possible. You know, it's actually possible. And so the nerves, I mean, it just hits you all the way down to your toes. But other than that, just a line of sight, squeeze the trigger.
As the competition proceeded, so did the determination that was needed. Vakhtang Igorashvili of the Soviet Union lost a share of the overall lead to fellow countryman German Yoferov, who is now in the lead for the first time. Igor Schwartz, like Igorashvili, lost a share of the lead and now stands in third. The Soviets are now in the top 8 places, but the greatest Soviet pentathlete of all is Igor Novikov, a 4-time world champion who now works with his younger proteges. The Soviets turned in the top 5 scores in the shooting competition. 4 were at 197. Former world champion Anatoly Staratstein a point behind. The top American in the shoot was Blair Driggs, whose score of 194 was his best in major competition. But a disappointment was Rob Stull, whose score of 183 was better than just 3 of the 65 competitors and 14 points behind the leaders. Here are the standings after the first 4 events. But the most exciting event is to follow. For both the men and the women, it promises to be a race to the wire.
We are going to be watching for you Lori Norwood of the U.S. Her best event is the run, and that is scheduled for tomorrow. If she does indeed finish in the top 3, it would be the first time that an American has won a medal in this world competition. We'll keep you updated on the story, and we'll have more coverage at the Goodwill Games after this.
It was set by this man here in a class by himself. Soviet pole vaulter Sergei Bubka bettering his own world mark, taking the record to 19 feet, 8 3/4 inches. And as you can see, he cleared that vault with very little problem. Some people think he might have been near the 20-foot mark. He's going to be here to explain some of that on some of our programming tomorrow. Right now, let's get to know a bit more about Sergei Bubka, and let's see him in our Goodwill profile.
Of course it helps that my wife Lily was an athlete and knows what sport means. She understands that high-level sport demands double sacrifice, especially in my time away from home.
Sergei is a very good father. He loves and frets over Vitaly a great deal. Sometimes he even gives me a hard time when he thinks that I'm not taking care of Vitaly properly. He's a very good father.
Vitaly Petrov has been my coach from the very beginning. Vitaly and I have a deeper relation than just between coach and athlete. This may be because when I moved here to Donetsk with Vitaly in 1974 at the age of 10, my parents stayed in my small hometown. My coach became like a father to me and his wife like a mother, and therefore we have a stronger than usual athlete-coach relationship.
It immediately became apparent that Sergei was a very capable young athlete. He could learn things faster and do things quicker than the other boys could. Within 2 years, it became obvious that he did not come to the gymnasium just to fool around and kill time. When he came, it was a serious matter to get down to business.
I train at pole vaulting itself twice a week. When I train, I work so hard that it is very taxing on my muscles. This is why we use the deep massage and sauna. It helps my muscles recover to normalcy faster than usual in order to prepare for the next training session. I also feel it helps me keep free of injury. All pole vaulting can be divided into track and field and gymnastics. When an athlete vaults into the air, this is already gymnastics. That's why I undergo gymnastics training. Body control is essential to any pole vaulter. One cannot expect top results in pole vaulting without undergoing a full gymnastics program under the direction of a specialist in the field.
In my opinion, Sergei is capable in all different aspects of the sport. I would also say that Sergei has great potential for getting even better in the next 5 or 6 years. Sergei's vaulting technique has to be a new wave which all his rivals will have to adopt.
That concludes our coverage for this time period, but we'll be back shortly. Hope you'll join us then. Then we'll have the action from Spain, Greece, men's basketball from Zaragoza. Paul Horning will be with us. For Marianne Laughlin, this is Bob Neal. We'll see you shortly.